If anybody knows how to get the watermarks out of slate coasters, drop it in the comments. Thank you.
Hey guys, welcome back to Iconoclast Brewing. Today I have my wife Marcella here, otherwise known as Brewcella, and she will be helping me taste the results of the iGulu experiment we did a couple weeks ago.
Let's do this.
Okay. So if you haven't seen the first half of this, the first video, you should definitely go check that out first because we take you through the whole process of what it's like to actually brew on this system. And it turns out it's really easy. So the majority of the brew day was really just mixing things together. I think it took a total of 10-15 minutes to do.
Yeah, I think when you started that brew day, I wasn't quite sure what to expect with a fully automated system because typically there's a lot of prep work that goes into getting your grain bill and making sure you have all of your ingredients laid out. And this one, you had the big bag and then a bunch of little bags and other things inside of it, and it was all labeled. It very much was just reminiscent of a lot of different kits or even meal kits or other things out there where it's, here's your instructions, here's your recipe, follow the numbers to kind of get to your end result. So
that is true. Even when you're brewing extract, I mean, it's not this easy. Extract, you still have to know what you're doing to a point where you know how much extract to actually get, unless you get a kit. But you still have to know when to add it to the boil so you don't scorch anything. There's tons of things to think about. With this, we really did just mix some ingredients together. And there were no hop pellets. It was hop extract we used, which was a first for me.
Okay. Yeah, with your experience making it, it was really straightforward, streamlined brew day. Very limited preparation. If anything, you just had to make sure that you had the kit itself and the device to go.
That's true. That's true. So I opened the kit and it was about 20 minutes. It took me about 10 minutes to figure out what I was doing, which isn't bad for a new brew system, let's be honest.
I think another thing too is that you really don't have to run to the brew store and get additional supplies or anything. If you're, setting up to brew, it's not, oh no, I need more, XYZ, because you don't have it on hand or in stock. So that was a nice feature about it. And two, just knowing typically the quality of ingredients, where they're coming from. There was some literature about where the grain was from, the hops and things like that, which is nice to know where it's all sourced from.
So I think I set my expectations pretty clearly when we made this. I mean, we were mixing malt extract, some hop extract, a little bit of yeast together with some water and no boil, which was the first for me. I've never done anything. This would be considered a raw beer, I think, by that standard. My expectations were not that high. So we're gonna find out what the beer was like today. We're actually gonna taste it. We're gonna pour it. We have nothing in our glasses. Normally I'm drinking something by now and I share that with you, but we're not today because we're actually gonna show you a pour, how it pours, and the overall experience from actually picking up your glass to taking a sip.
So this fermentation is different than other beers you've done because it's all in one system. What did you observe during fermentation that differed from other experiences?
Yeah, well, it was very different from other experiences. Namely, it set the amount of time it was going to be fermenting without any input from me. I know there's a way to change that, but when you use the RFID tag, you don't have the pro features enabled, you're not really fine-tuning it so much. So you can't say, I'm going to allow extra time for this to ferment, or I'm going to pick my temperatures really carefully. I'm going to drop from your peak fermentation temperature maybe by a degree every so often. That's not something I had the chance to really fine-tune. So you'll notice there's a green light on the front, and that is something we talked about in the first video. So this green light means it is ready to drink according to the iGulu F1. So it turned green about a week ago, but I still haven't touched it. I did want to give it a little extra time. That's something I do with my process typically. I try my hardest not to break into a keg as soon as it's been kegged, as hard as that can be.
With other beers that you have fermenting, you typically have a sight glass or some ability to just take a look and see what's going on. And with this system, did you have that ability?
Yeah, so you can take the top off. You can see what's going on in there a bit. And the first batch, I mentioned this in the first video, but I actually dumped that batch because I realized I had not captured the full experience and I wanted to make sure I did capture that for you guys. So when I did that, I tried letting off some pressure and ended up spraying foam all over the place. So yes, you can see what's going on in there, but when you pull that PRV, you should definitely be careful, I would say. but it's really just that vessel you saw go in the first video. It's clear. It's about a gallon. It's like a jug. You can see right through it. But mostly you're just seeing crowds in. All right, so I also noticed the pressure went quite high. It was actually up around 37, 38 psi at the peak of fermentation, which was a little alarming, but we did expect that. That's something I've heard from other people who have used this, and I did not experience issues with that. So it's worth noting that I never attached a CO2 tank to this. I still haven't needed to. It's sitting right now at about 18 psi, and you can see that if you ever wanted to, you just kind of swipe over. So it's 16.89 psi right now with CO2 from fermentation. So I don't really think I need to at this point, but pretty soon I will if I want to keep drinking it. But that is worth mentioning. I'm not sure if it impacts fermentation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready to iGulu.
Okay, let's do it. All right, so let's do this. Let's see how it pours. So I did adjust the inner diameter of the tube with the little clip that I talked about in the first video. So definitely go back and check that if you're wondering what I'm talking about. But it's supposed to let you control the foam a bit. But like I said, this is sitting at almost 17 psi. So with a 5-inch or so tube on that thing, on the serving tube, I'm expecting some foam. So we'll see how it goes. All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty foamy, right?
Yeah, definitely a cup of foam right now.
Okay. Yep. So you can see how much foam there is in this right now. I think it's going to dissipate a little bit. We're going to let it kind of... Okay, so it smells really grapefruity first. It's almost like smelling a bag of DME right now. So it smells sweet. Let's let that kind of chill out. Yeah, you got some foam in your shelf there.
Yeah. I have to say, just I'm very sensory, and I love how this feels. It feels so solid pulling it.
That's true. Yeah, that was something I definitely appreciated when I was putting it together. The weight of the handle is really nice. Yeah. So okay, we're starting to see some attributes here. So appearance-wise, I'm seeing definitely not a lot of clarity going on. Not that I expected it. It really didn't get much time. I think it was 9 days total we were looking at here, start to finish. Although I did give it an extra 7 or so days. Now, normally when I brew, I would use something like Whirlflock, which has some charged particles in it, which would help drop things, like proteins out, so you can clarify. This didn't call for anything like that, so that might explain some of the haziness. Or it could be from the hop extract. Yeah, it's pretty, it almost looks like a hazy right now. That foam is dissipating, but it is sticking around pretty good. I would say it has a good head on it.
I was gonna say, very decent head retention on it, so.
Yeah. Yep. I'm anxious to take a sip, but I want to make sure I get some liquid, not just foam. So I can give it an accurate once over.
It's definitely, I mean, it's just all grapefruit in the nose there.
Yeah. Yep, very strong grapefruit. That is definitely the dominant thing going on here. It's borderline too much for me, but I think it's the sweetness that I'm smelling that's throwing me.
I was about to comment, I was like, it almost is like a subtle sweetness, but now that I'm smelling it more, I'm like, oh no, there's just a sweet aroma to it.
There is. All right, so we're just gonna let this chill out for a minute, and then we'll come right back and see how it tastes.
So what do you think are some of the things that maybe impacted the good head retention and lacing in this?
It's definitely protein based. I don't know a lot about extracts. I know mostly about all grain. So I would assume that extracts have quite a bit of protein in them, since people are buying them to forego an all grain process anyway. And a lot of all grain brewers will do a protein rest to try to get this characteristic in their beer. Yeah, I mean, I do like the color a lot. It looks very orange. I mean, this is a really nice color overall. It looks very good.
It reminds me of a blue moon that somebody squeezed a whole orange into to like get that deeper orange, but it's got that haziness that you would see in a blue moon.
Right. The haziness that you might see in any wit beer. Yeah. Which is typically coming from the wheat. It's not characteristic of a pale malt usually like this. All right, so I think we're about at the point where we can try this out. So let's go ahead.
Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, so first impressions, I'm not getting much bitterness from it. This is a pale ale, so I did expect 30 to 50 IBUs, somewhere in that range. Typically it'd be around 35 to 40 in my experience. What do you taste?
I taste the sweetness that we were getting in the aroma, and the flavor profile of that sweetness is pretty spot on with how it smelled as well. So
Yeah, the aroma definitely leads you to the right flavor, I guess. So it's what I expected.
it is. I get some like grapefruit pulpy, like yeah, it's a sweeter grapefruit sort of flavor.
Yeah.
Because it's citrus, but there's no bite because of the sweetness. It softens it.
Yeah.
I don't get any of that, like more of the hoppier tones from it. It's really just all coming through in the fruit and the grapefruit.
Yeah.
In terms of, grass or like any of those other more traditional, when you think pale ale.
Sure, and that does make sense. Mosaic was the hop extract that we used in this, so it's going to be fruity. I didn't expect grapefruit so much, but it is heavy on the grapefruit. I do get some citrus, I would say. Citrus, orange, grapefruit, just lots of citrus. But the sweetness really overshadows it to the point that I have to wonder if it finished fermenting. It tastes like an extract beer that you might make, and then you try a sample halfway through fermentation. That's how I would describe it.
I was gonna say something similar in that respect. It reminds me a little bit of when you take some wort fresh and blend it with a little something on tap. And you kind of make like that fresh blend brew, like just during brew day.
Yeah, so that really suggests that this did not finish fermentation, which was one of the, you could say it's a suggestion, is to include something similar to the tilt that will measure gravity as it ferments out. It does that by the buoyancy of a capsule that's floating in the wort, and it will talk to a lot of different IoT devices. It could certainly talk to that iGulu that's very enabled with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all kinds of different features. And maybe that tilt device could inform the F1 when fermentation is actually complete, so it can then enter the next stage, which would be chilling, going to cold crash.
Dynamic fermentation versus fixed fermentation, right? Because everybody's brew is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is why they have the pro features in the app you can enable too, which I wasn't able to experiment with because the Android app is not up yet. If you have iOS, you can use that today, but I have Android, so.
What are your thoughts on mouthfeel?
So it definitely goes hand in hand with the sweetness. It's very full, and my mustache feels sticky.
There is something with the sugar, so it definitely did not all ferment out because I do get that so.
Yeah, I can feel it. Yeah, the mouthfeel is very full, I would say, which is also not characteristic of a pale ale. So usually you have a medium mouthfeel for something like this. You could think of like a Sierra Nevada, maybe. Their pale ale. Again, though, the head retention is very good. It's been going for a while now, and you still have all that lacing. You still have quite a bit of head on the top of there. So that means a lot of aroma too. So I don't know if I gave this a fair shot at this point. I really don't think this came out the way it was intended to. I'm gonna have to take my other kit and give that a shot. They did also send us a wine kit, which I'm really excited to try. It's a Moscato. And I think that's a really good application for this machine because you have 1 gallon of finished product that comes out of this. And with wine, that's gonna go a lot further. So I think that's a great experiment to do.
Overall, I'm interested to see what else this can do with some of the kits and things that are out right now, and just trying out the other kit with some enhancements and how we try the recipe. Thanks to suggestions from iGulu and feedback from the first video, so that'll be great to implement. And I'm curious, this kind of device wouldn't be able to do mead or anything like that.
I don't know about mead. It can do cider, it can do hard seltzer, it can do kombucha. You can do all kinds of things. So beer is not the only application for it. And I personally know some people who are interested. They're looking at this for wine capabilities. So, I think there's something to that.
Cold brew coffee?
Oh, and hook up a nitro tank?
Yeah.
Hey, iGulu, if you're listening, you should make this capable for cold brew, and you could put a nitro tank on it or something like that.
Oh,
That would be
man.
cool too. Oh, by the way, guys, so the instructions that were sent to me specifically said don't mix the ingredients, which I did think was weird, right? You remember that? It threw me off pretty hard. After I posted that first video, iGulu reached out and said, hey, you got an older version of the instructions. We actually do recommend that you mix it lightly. So if you pick one of these up and you go to make a kit, make sure you just mix the ingredients in, the malt extract, everything lightly before you kick off fermentation. So in conclusion, I think this is a great machine. For me, this is not something I would use for beer personally, because I have a huge kettle back there. I am an all grain guy. I could see someone just getting into brewing that might get some benefit from this. It would be like an introductory sort of device. However, if you're looking to make wine, cider, seltzer, kombucha, those types of things, this is actually a really good bet. So I'm excited to start experimenting with other types of fermented beverages myself.
Kombucha would be a lot of fun to try in that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what variety of different flavors and stuff are available for that.
I don't know. You could even use butterfly pea flower to start coloring it with, depending on the pH. It could be purple or green or whatever, because kombucha does have a lower pH than beer typically.
Yeah.
So we will be doing another batch of beer on this just to see how that goes. And I also want to try making my own wort just to see how it does. Maybe I can enable those pro features and set up my own fermentation schedule. And we can try it with some batch. Maybe I split off a gallon and do something kind of weird with that 1 gallon. Like pitch a different yeast, or maybe we use bugs. I don't know. Let's get creative.
So what's the next batch that you're going to be brewing on the iGulu?
Oh, yeah. So the one I have left, I already opened the Bavarian wheat. And like I said, I dumped that so I could do a proper video for you guys and show you the process. Really excited to try this because a lager is going to be a different experience altogether. Yeah, so that'll be our next beer batch. A lot of the same ingredients in this one. I mean, of course, it's beer, right? You're gonna have hops, water, yeast, and malt extract. So that makes a lot of sense. But the one I'm excited most for, I think, is this wine kit that they sent, the Moscato. It's a 1 gallon wine kit. I really feel like this is the best application for this machine. I don't typically make wine. I make a lot of beer. So I would prefer to use this for wine because now I can keep my beer fermenters free for beer and I can use this for wine. And a gallon of wine should last a little while. So I do want to reiterate, I think this could have been a really good beer. It would have been very drinkable if it had fermented through all the way. It's very sweet. There's no way this finished. This has to be like a 1020, 1025 final gravity, which is way too high. So something happened. I don't know if it was the yeast. You never know. It could be the yeast. It could be anything. Maybe you just need a little extra time. I don't know. So I think when we try this next batch, we should get a different experience. I might even try pitching a little extra yeast in just to see how that goes. But I think it'll be good. So speaking of making alternative beverages, one of my next videos coming out really soon is going to be how to make a great hard seltzer. And this is something I've gotten tons of good responses on. Whenever we have club meetups, the keg always gets kicked. So I can't wait to show you guys that. So make sure you're watching out for that video. How would you summarize this overall?
I think I can see where there's some potential. I think it did a wonderful job of capturing that grapefruit essence and having some of that fruity note and character come through. Definitely with you, would love to see a final product that has come through to full fermentation. And you had mentioned the gravity. Did you check it on this?
I did not check the gravity, so I'm making an assumption there. Yeah, at this point it's hard to take a gravity because it goes up to almost 40 psi. So you're sitting there waiting for the foam to reduce so much the carbonation so you can take a gravity in the first place.
Got you.
I really do think a tilt type device would work really well in this machine. If the tilt hydrometer or whatever it ends up being can inform the device what the gravity is, there should be no issue. So then it becomes variable. And it does connect to your phone. So maybe you're getting notifications. We detected that you need a couple extra days. Something like that would be helpful.
Yeah, it automatically adjusts the fermentation schedule for you, and it's like, hey, did the thing for you.
Yeah, that would be great if it was automated in that way. I think that's just taking it to the next level, though. For all I know, they do have plans to do that. And I've mentioned this before, they have plans to do an all grain unit next year as well. So I'd be interested in trying that too. So if you think this device might be something that you'd like in your kitchen, because that is what I think of it as, this is definitely like a kitchen appliance. I almost think of it like a K-cup machine for coffee, that kind of thing. So if you think this is for you, feel free to use my affiliate link. It does give me a small commission when you make that purchase, but it doesn't cost you anything and it helps our channel out a lot. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you liked this review. I have plenty more ideas I plan to share with you, and you subscribing and liking our content helps us make more. Thanks for watching Iconoclast, and never stop learning.
Thanks all.